Good afternoon, everyone. The School Innovation and Turnaround Committee is now called to order. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Dr. Bofi? Is not in attendance. Mr. Castile?
Here.
Dr. Davis? Here. Mr. Davis?
Present.
Ms. Ellis?
Present.
Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Ms. Orange-Jones?
Present.
Mr. Rock? Ms. Vaucher?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. It's my understanding that there's a request that we take an item out of order, item number 2.2. Can I get a motion to take that particular item up first? Hopefully that will streamline our meeting. Ms. Orange-Jones moves. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Morris. Any objection to the motion? All right, we'll take that up first. Item number 2.2. Ms. Landry?
Item 2.2 is on page 33, consideration of a material amendment to the Type 2 charter contract governing Lafayette Renaissance Charter Academy. The department recommendation is to approve the material amendment to add grade levels 9 through 12 to the current grade level configuration and increase enrollment beginning with the 2021-2022 school year, contingent upon the governing board of the Lafayette Charter Foundation completing a required governance training with the LDE.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by Mr. Davis and Ms. Holloway. I understand that Dr. Peterson is here to present briefly on this particular item, and Dr. Brumley may want to add some color to the recommendation as well.
Thank you. The department received a material amendment request from the Lafayette Charter Foundation to consider for the approval of addition of seat capacity in their currently operated grade levels through K-8, as well as the addition of grades for 9 through 12. One thing to highlight here is that with their grade level expansion, specifically moving from beginning in 2021, 2022, just to highlight the addition for the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade seats. In order to be having membership in LHSAA, they do have to have grade levels there, but they will continue to slow grow throughout that. So just wanting to highlight that as well. And it is our recommendation after reviewing the information provided by them, as well as looking at their 8th grade cohort from last year and comparing it to where those students would attend for the 10-1, and they are currently enrolled, that this is an additional educational opportunity for those students.
Great, thank you. Dr. Brumley, anything to add?
Just briefly, had the opportunity over the last year to meet with leadership with both the Lafayette Charter Foundation and a visit one afternoon, but as well as leadership from Charter Schools USA. Very optimistic about what they intend to do for children. Whenever we looked at this material amendment, frankly, we looked at this current configuration as K-8. We believe that those students who are in 8th grade, most likely, along with their parents, want those students to matriculate up in that school with in this setting. We tend to believe that K-8 and even K-12 are some of the best configurations for schools that exist. And when we looked at zone schools of where these students would be attending once they leave their 8th grade year, those schools were D-rated schools, and we just felt like we certainly needed to give the parents the opportunity to stay in this particular school, and so that simply is the basis for the recommendation.
Great. Members, any discussion? We have some public comments. Let's see, I'll go ahead with those first. We've got Carlos Sam, who does not wish to speak but supports the recommendation. I also have Xavier Trehan, who also supports the recommendation but does not wish to speak. Caroline Romer, who supports the recommendation but does not wish to speak. Kiana Thibodeau supports the recommendation but does not wish to speak. We have Lonnie Luce, who supports the recommendation, will waive if there's no opposition. Angela Thomas likewise supports the recommendation, will likewise waive. Gary McCoffin will likewise waive but supports the recommendation. Mary Riggs Cook, Dr. Mary Riggs Cook also supports the recommendation but will waive if there's no opposition. Members, we've got any discussion from board members as it relates to the recommendation by the Department of Education? Any objection? All right, motion passes. Our next item?
Your next item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of type 2 charter applications in response to the request for charter school applications as recommended by the State Superintendent of Education. Additional information has been distributed to our board members from information that the public has submitted. Also, we will receive a report first before we take these applicants one at a time.
A motion to receive, please. It's been moved by Mr. Davis. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Mr. Garvey. The report, please. Dr. Kelly Peterson.
Thank you. So one of the things we wanted to make sure that we took the time to do is to really go over the process as well as the BESE authorizer responsibilities before presenting the final recommendations. And so we begin with just making sure that we are all grounded in some different definitions that we use. One of the things that we know in education, we use this thing called edu-speak often. And so really want to make sure that we give this community, those that are watching, as well as everyone in the room, grounded upon the definitions and the way we define these certain words. So one is just charter school authorizer. Authorizers are the entities that decide who can start a new charter school. They also set those academic, organization, operational standards and oversee school performance. The Charter School Performance Compact is the accountability framework that we use for our BESE authorized schools. It specifically outlines our renewal standards and annual oversight activities. A charter management organization, often referred to as a CMO, these are nonprofit entities that manage 2 or more charter schools, creating a network. An education service provider, often referred to as an ESP, is a third-party entity, whether nonprofit or sometimes for-profit, that provide management services to a school via contract with that school's board. Then also we have management organization, as defined by Bulletin 126, a for-profit company that manages academic, fiscal, and operational services. BESE authorizing responsibilities. We serve as an authorizer of type 2, 4, and 5 charter schools. Also to implement a comprehensive application process, to review each of those proposed applications in a timely manner, engage in a review process that complies with the latest principles and standards that are outlined by the NACSA or the National Association of Charter School Authorizers, and to enter into performance contracts only after specific determination. The application process and timeline for the 2020 cycle. The first is just noting for a third-party evaluator of charter application that BESE must engage with an independent evaluation of our charter proposals by a third party. Each of these applications are reviewed using an evaluation rubric by an evaluation team and scored on that rubric. Those third parties make a recommendation to the department for approval or denial based on that review. The third-party evaluator that we use currently is SchoolWorks. The 2020 Common Charter Application Evaluation Rubric outlines the specific standards that are aligned with the application that applicants must meet and thus used as a tool by the evaluators. Applicant groups must meet the 100% of these standards in order for the department, the evaluator, to advise the department to approve the applicant group. The application process is approved on an annual basis. On December 10, 2019, BESE approved the 2020 charter school application and process timeline. December 13th, the application and resources were released. In March 2020, BESE approved a modification of the previously approved timeline due to the COVID crisis, and specifically the impact on our local school districts so that they had enough time to consider their applications. The application components: executive summary, educational program, governance, leadership and management, financial plan, and facilities. The charter application is also delineated between an experienced operator and new operator as well, in addition to having a virtual school addendum for those that are seeking to serve a virtual school population. The application timeline, the common applications were due to BESE on July 24th. There are several phases to the process here. The initial draft recommendation that's provided to the charter applicants. Charter applicants then had the opportunity to submit a 5-page response to that initial draft recommendation. And just to highlight that is in blue, Bulletin 126, make sure to make, prior to consideration of any proposal, that applicants are afforded the opportunity to provide a written response to the independent evaluation of the application. The second draft was provided to the charter applications from the third party. Then the virtual capacity interviews were held. A capacity interview includes performance tests for both the governing board and the school leader, along with application questions. We also included a quantitative charter applicant survey that we provided each of our applicants to take into consideration their experiences up until that point that we will use to continue to refine our process moving forward. The final recommendation was provided to the applicants on November 6th. We then held conversations with our charter applicants. They were able to submit a 1-page factual and accuracy response for consideration. We then had follow-up 1-to-1 conversations with those that had submitted the 1-page factual responses. And then we finally concluded with an open-ended charter applicant survey that was released to all applicants, again, to gain more narrative responses to help to inform our practices moving forward. Anything that is in italicized are things that we added to this process to create more touch points along the way to our applicants. The third-party evaluator final recommendations. So we'll start with Louisianans for Quality Virtual Education. That nonprofit supported an application for the Louisiana Connections Academy as a school. They have chosen to use an educational service provider, which would be Pearson Online and Blended Learning K-12 USA. To locate in East Baton Rouge Parish, but a virtual school model, thus statewide enrollment. With a new start, grade configuration K-12, starting with 500 students at capacity 3,100. The mission of the Louisiana Connections Academy is to help each student maximize his or her potential and meet the highest performance standards through a uniquely individualized learning program. The vision hinges upon innovative virtual school to serve students through an online education to meet and to fit their unique needs. The standards breakdown. For the new operator application, there were a total of 118 standards. You will see here that we indicated those that were not applicable, those that were applicable, and those that were unmet. And as a result, they have met 96 of 107 applicable standards. As a result, SchoolWorks recommends the denial of the charter application submitted by Louisianans for quality virtual education. And the LDE recommendation is to deny the Type 2 charter application in alignment with supporting our SchoolWorks evaluation. Some of the rationale for the recommendation for denial, specifically going to the ESP question or the Education Service Provider. Since this is an applicant that chooses to use an ESP, there are specific questions that were to be responded to if they were using that the ESP. One of the requirements of the question states performance overview of the ESP. Specifically, when we have those that are applying for not currently operating in Louisiana, those applicable standards specifically are wanting to collect all the data from that educational service provider and seeing if they are on target or performing higher than their state or district in which they are located in. After a collection of the data that was submitted, and this is taken from the submission from the overview template from Louisiana's for Quality Virtual Education, again, the standard is that the ESP schools consistently have a higher level of proficiency than their peer schools, as well as those with high school, that they have a consistently higher graduation rate. Performance data was provided for 33 of the 40 schools that are currently operated. 42% of those schools are performing as well or outperforming the district schools in the state in which they are located in ELA. However, 0% of the schools are performing as well or outperforming the district schools and the state in which they are located in math. And 4 of 28 of those schools demonstrate high school graduation rate that is equal to or greater than the district rate. Thus, the standard is not met. Another component for the rationale for recommendation for denial is, as a virtual school, we ask that each of our applicants that are proposing a virtual school respond to questions and making sure that they have a cohesive plan in terms of making sure that their struggling students would be able to receive in-person instruction. And the standard is listed below. The applicant provided a response that is here as well. And specifically, they made a response related to providing a live state-certified teacher instruction and parents to serve as learning coaches, providing guidance and encouragement. They will also offer optional statewide English and math in-person tutoring for students in kindergarten through third grade who desire face-to-face teacher engagement. Students also will have the option to make an appointment with a teacher to better understand concepts and work towards mastery. And as a statewide virtual school, they have an obligation to provide transportation services limited to those students whose IEP and/or 504 plan requires such. However, what we know to be true is struggling students are not always our special education students, and special education students are not always our struggling students. And so while there is a plan to transport our students with required IEP accommodations, this is not encompassing all of the struggling students. And therefore, there was no clear plan for providing not only transportation, but instruction to students that were struggling academically. And thus, that standard is not met. Additionally, one of the academic questions asks applicants to identify the curriculum that they will use and their reasons for these choices. The requirement is that they are using Tier 1 curriculum or have submitted the instructional materials review rubric for their academic selection to be reviewed by the evaluator. While they indicate a plan to outline a timeline to submit, the standard again requires them to use Tier 1 curriculum or the submission of the instructional material review that was not submitted, and therefore that standard is not met. Next, the nonprofit Lafayette Charter Foundation submitted an application for a school of Scott Renaissance Charter Academy. The educational service provider here is the Charter Schools USA.
Dr. Peterson, there is a request that we take up one at a time.
Yep.
So I know that there is a motion on the floor to receive your report, but I think there's also an interest in having some discussion on each one of these as we go through them. So having said that, I see President Holloway gesturing this way. Again, what we have is a partial report that's been presented. And there is a motion that's been made by Mr. Davis and seconded by Ms. Holloway. But if you don't mind pausing your report, are there any questions as it relates to this particular item, or would you like to take up the first school first? So, President Holloway?
Probably first school connections.
All
and
right,
then-
so let's take up as an action item the first school. Ms., go ahead. Yeah, so in terms of this portion of the report, because there is a motion on the floor, is there any objection to the receipt of the report thus far? No objection. All right, thank you. Ms. Landry?
The first recommendation is to deny the Type 2 charter application for the 2021-2022 school year submitted for Louisiana Connections Academy, operated by Louisianians for Quality Virtual Education.
All right, is there a motion? All right, motion by Dr. Davis. Is there a second to the motion? A second by Mr. Rock. All right, we have for discussion a few cards. The first is we have a card from Caroline Romer as it relates to the report that's been presented. It supports the recommendation of the report. Ms. Romer, would you please come forward as you wish to speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Caroline Romer. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools. It's that wonderful time of year. I come here for this meeting annually now for almost 14 years. to talk specifically about the process and the policy that you all have put in place as a board. As an association, we support that process and that policy and encourage you as board members to stick to it. We think that by having that policy in place, what you're setting up for and framing for is decisions that are based in data and indicators that we believe will let us know if an operator is ready to do this work. And when you deviate from that process, we believe that you're bringing politics into a decision. It's not always a popular position we take. We have many wonderful people that would like to be charter operators and many who feel strongly that their time is now. But again, we feel like you have set up a process that allows for decisions that are rooted in data and outcomes for kids. So we support the recommendations. We appreciate the opportunity we've had to work with Dr. Peterson and Dr. Brumley for this cycle. I will say that there's always room to take a look at your process and the indicators that you have and readjust and reconfirm if these are still the right indicators or not. But we do not believe the time to do that is in the middle of these decisions. So again, we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I also feel like I should be on the record and say that I was someone that was concerned about the transition to a new superintendent. I was vocal that I was worried that Type 2 charters might not be an opportunity as they have been in the past. I want to be on the record that I might have been wrong. We've enjoyed working with Dr. Brumley. We've enjoyed working with Dr. Peterson, and while we may not always agree, we do believe the department has continued with a group of people who are very dedicated to students and who do believe that choice has a place in our public education system. Thank you.
Great. I see no other public comments. There is a motion on the floor to deny this application. Any objection to the motion? No objection? Next item.
The next recommendation is to deny the Type 2 charter application for the 2021-2022 school year submitted for Scott Renaissance Charter Academy, operated by Lafayette Charter Foundation.
Ms. Holloway?
I'd like to make a motion that this application is deleted from the agenda.
Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Ruck? All right. There's been a motion, a second, and a point of clarification. Mr. Davis?
Deleting the motion or
Deleting the item off the agenda.
to move it off the agenda?
So, and for further clarification, my understanding is that by deleting the item and removing it from the agenda, that the applicant will not be able to bring forward the application until the next cycle. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, we have a motion, second. Any objection to that motion? Well, given that it's been deleted, I don't think it's necessary for her to present. All right, I do not see,
Point of
yes, sir?
information, I
Garland?
guess. There's no cards on this item,
Are there,
on this particular part of this item.
I'm sorry. Yes, there is
right.
one.
There is one card, thank you, Jared LeBou, who, he supported the recommendation, but does not wish to speak.
Okay, thank you.
May I?
All right, having said that, Ms. Holloway?
I have
President
additional
Holloway?
comments, if I may. Is this appropriate time?
Go right ahead.
Sure, and this is in draft form, so I wanted to make a comment about, thank you, Mr. Chair, with the approval of this material amendment for the Lafayette Renaissance Charter Academy. The board for the proposed charter school in Scott is requesting that the application be deleted until next year so that the board can and management organization can solely focus on building a higher quality secondary school in an under-resourced area. I support that request and thank the Scott applicants for their due diligence. As someone that has started and operated a charter school for 10 years, I can attest for the time that it takes to start up, to work through it, negotiating, and having these conversations, collaborating together with the district, and investing so much time in this requires not only time, but attention to details in a charter application. And the students of LRCA deserve to be able to continue attending a school that's not failing. I support those school choices and look forward to the discussion when they do come back in the next year. The school that would feed to the proposed Scott School has a 1,000 student wait list. I anticipate it will be a great conversation moving forward, and so we are looking forward to that as a school choice supporter. Thank you.
Great, thank you, President Holloway. All right, I think that will then take us to our next item. Any opposition? I didn't hear any earlier. All right, that motion has passed.
The next recommendation is to approve the Type 2 charter application submitted for St. Landry Charter School operated by St. Landry Primary, Inc., to commence operation of one Type 2 charter school in St. Landry Parish, beginning with the 2021-2022 school year with contingencies.
All right. Let's get a report first, I think. All right, a motion and a second, please. Motion by Mr. Garvey and second by Ms. Fauché. All right, Dr. Peterson?
All right, we received an application from St. Landry Primary Incorporated to operate St. Landry Charter School. The location would be in St. Landry Parish. Configuration at start would be a K through 4 with the capacity growing to a K-8 to enroll 396 students. The mission of St. Landry Charter School is to create a developmentally appropriate model of education that is student-centered, directed by high-quality teachers, and supported by home and community, reflecting current best practices and research, and incorporating them into an environment that enhances the curricular process, as well as fosters continuing student learning and growth. Their vision is grounded upon all children having value and empowered to maximize their fullest potential and develop leaders in the community. Key aspects of the proposed school highlighted by the third party is that the applicant group has selected curricular programs and assessments, which are all rated Tier 1 by the LDOE. They've also selected social emotional learning programs and methods in order to cultivate a positive, rigorous, and inclusive culture. The applicant group describes how their teachers will be trained to support all of their students, including students with disabilities, English learners, and struggling students, as well as how teachers will be evaluated and provided with differentiated coaching. The new operator application had a total standards of 118. There were 36 not applicable, 82 applicable, and 82 of those met. St. Landry Primary Incorporated met 100% of the standards. Therefore, SchoolWorks recommends the approval of the charter application. And aligns with that, the LDE is recommending to approve the Type 2 charter application submitted for St. Landry Charter School.
All right, great. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. We have a motion and a second on the floor. I have a number of comment cards before me. I have Shelby Santiago, who supports the recommendation, but does not indicate whether she or he wishes to speak. Oh, you do? All right. And so if you can make your way forward, please. We also have Jack Artigo, who supports the recommendation, I presume wishes to speak. Is that correct, Mr. Artigo? We also have Debbie Fall. In terms of, I think we're speaking from the podium here, so if you would like to go first.
Yes,
Mr.
sir. And they can line up down the aisle right there, and when they exit, please exit to this side because we have the live streaming.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Shelby Santiago. I am currently employed and I also reside in St. Landry Parish. I'm 26 years old and I am currently a board member for this school and I am in support of St. Landry Charter School. I have been trained throughout this past year with the extensive training that we've had. I am also on a national cohort for child law and policy with National Court-Appointed Special Advocates Association. And I want to take this time to read a letter to our representative from a parent who is in support of this school. Dear Dr. Castillo, The law says that all children must have the right to a free and appropriate public education. The schools in Opelousas are free, but they are certainly not appropriate. The schools all have high failure rates. 4 out of every 10 students are not graduating from a local high school. Of the 60% that do graduate, only a small percent go to college, and many of the others are only eligible for minimum wage paying jobs. The St. Landry Parish School Board, its superintendents and central office staff has had more than a decade to turn around its appalling status to no avail. It is time to give another public institute the opportunity to help change the course of education for the city of Opelousas. As chairman of the committee that oversees charter schools, I ask that you please speak and vote favorable to allow St. Landry Charter School to give Opelousas parents a choice about the education of their children. And this is written by Raven Savoy. That is all I have for you. Someone who I went to private school in Opelousas, so I had more than a lot of the constituents that I currently serve in my job that I've been with for the last 3.5 years. And I see the need that our kids desperately need support, and they need support from the beginning. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Santiago. Ms. Fall? And just state your name for the record and who you represent.
My name is Deborah Fall. I'm the Executive Director of St. Landry Charter Schools. Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, on behalf of St. Landry Charter School, I thank you for the opportunity to present our application for your approval. The application requirements are rigorous and specific, just as they should be, to provide a successful education program. St. Landry Charter School has met all academic, operations, and financial criteria. As a result, St. Landry Charter School has received SchoolWorks recommendation for approval. There is a need in Opelousas for an alternative to the district's low-performing schools. As indicated in the attached data in the folders that we gave out, Opelousas schools contributed negatively toward any improvement efforts on the part of the St. Landry Parish school system. Our vision and mission are to provide a challenging and supportive learning environment that prepares students to become college and or career ready. With a graduation rate in Opelousas for 2019-2020 of 61%, the need for alternative learning is paramount. In addition, it should be noted that many of those graduates do not go to post-secondary schools or are not eligible for meaningful employment. During this year's application process, members of the community and I conducted a survey to determine parent satisfaction with the current system, or if there was a need for something different and better. Of the 150 families surveyed, 137 families were interested in enrolling 383 students in the St. Landry Charter School. Due to COVID limitations, many parents who wanted to attend this meeting could not, but sent letters that are in your packet. I also have the list of parents who signed our survey, and is available for your review. In the past year, we adjusted the board, and all members received training from LAPCS and Fourth Sector Solutions. The board has met all required standards according to SchoolWorks. Once in operation, 2 board members coming from the parent sector of the school will be added. Financially, SchoolWorks indicated that our plan met all standards, and we are prepared to support and sustain the school. In addition, St. Landry Charter School has partnered with the local bank to provide a line of credit for financial support as needed. St. Landry Charter School will apply for a state loan in the sum of $100,000 to meet the needs of the school. We have also secured a facility to house the school that is located within the city limits of Opelousas. We are proud to say that we have received the full approval of SchoolWorks and are ready to open our doors in August of 2021. Today, we humbly ask that you please allow us to provide the type of educational services our students need and deserve. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Fall. Mr. Artigo.
Well, that's a good start, Jack. You're quite a gentleman here. Pardon me.
It's quite all right.
Dr. Bromley, Chairman Castillo, members of the committee. I'm Jack Artigo, and I serve as the current president of St. Landry Charter School. This is not my first merry-go-round, as I was here last year. The thing that I'm so proud of at this point in time is our team. Our board members have undergone training, and they have done one heck of a job in preparing themselves through training processes and cohesiveness that they've developed on the board. We're ready. We're energetic. I've been following the St. Andrew Parish school systems for many years. I'm a product of that system, a former board member, and now I'm a grandparent, although unfortunately I don't have any grandkids in the parish. But my view of education in our parish is important to me. I care, I see, I've seen. And it's time for us to provide an alternative to what we have. It's no use to start pointing fingers. We are and have been in declining environment. We feel that this charter school will open the doors to a new attitude of education in St. Landry Parish. And we're proud to be a part of this. And we hope that you concur with the recommendations that we received. Thank you so much.
Great.
Sorry for the blunder.
That's quite all right. Thank you, Dr. Artigo. Dr. Artigo was a member of the school board when I was a student in high school in St. Landry, so thank you for your comments. We also have additional comment cards. We have a card from Marcus Thomas, who does not wish to speak, opposes the recommendation. We also have Mr. Patrick Jenkins, who wishes to speak in opposition. We have Ms. Angela Casimir, who opposes the recommendation, wishes to speak. And we have Dr. Toby Daspit, who also wishes to speak and opposes the recommendation. If you folks would come forward and present in the order that you deem appropriate.
I'm Dr. Toby Daspit. Thank you for hearing me today. By day and night, I'm a professor of education, but I'm here today as an educational consultant. For the past 5 years, I've conducted 12 independent evaluations of Type 1 charters in Lafayette Parish and St. Landry Parish. And for the past 4 years, I've evaluated the St. Landry Charter School. It's gone by another name, St. Landry Primary, I believe, last year and before. And I'm here to support the recommendation that I gave the local district of denying the application. There are 5 main reasons. I think you have my letter. Number one, the governance board of St. Landry Charter School has been an issue since 2017. They admit they've changed, they've modified, but they haven't been able to maintain a consistent board, and that has always been an issue for me. They have attended trainings by Fourth Sector and Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools, but if you look in the application and carefully review the agenda, the signed members who were able to attend, you'll see that there's inconsistency in who was able to attend what meetings. Additionally, you all denied the application last year, and we were presented no evidence that any trainings had been attended after that. Number 2, and I think this is my main point of contention, Bulletin 126 calls for innovative applicants and innovative schooling. I don't believe that St. Landry Charter School provides a coherent, innovative educational model. I don't really think they provide a model, to be honest. They provide an amalgam of programs that have spotty records across the country. But the idea of pulling all these together, there's absolutely no evidence that when you combine guaranteed viable curriculum with understanding by design, with Lions work, with it's like they threw a lot at the wall and hoped something would stick. Number 3, I am very concerned about professional development for teachers and staff because of the sheer volume of programs. Nobody on this board is an expert in any of these programs. They admit they're going to need training on these models, whereas other charter authorized that I reviewed before provide a coherent, cohesive model. Number 4, as far as I know, no location for the school has ever been offered. So the demographic data they use is outdated and riddled with inconsistencies. I think you'll see that if you explore. And I do have a question, number 5, about with the rapidly changing educational environment that COVID has brought. If you look at the application, no letters of support from community partners have been provided since 2018. We're in a different world now. I would argue that it's a risky gamble at best. If you look at the report that was just given to you, you don't really see why. You say they met all the standards, but what is really going to happen? I also support what St. Landry Parish has done in terms of the strides they've made over the last few years with Superintendent Jenkins and his staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daspit. Ms. Casimir?
Good afternoon, Superintendent Brumley, President Holloway.
State your name for the record, just so that we're...
Angela Casimir, St. Landry Parish School Board Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. President Holloway, Chairman Castile, and esteemed members of BESE. Today we come before you to share a very brief snapshot of our school district. The St. Landry Parish School System is committed to building the future of our children by promoting lifelong learning and by providing opportunities for college and career readiness. This commitment is our driving force each and every day. As a district, we are dedicated to our mission to ensure high-quality instruction while working collaboratively with families and communities to maximize every student's potential. It has been said time and time again that the future depends on what we do now. President Abraham Lincoln once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." As a district dedicated to data-driven instructional practices, we are creating a better tomorrow today for our students. Through the adoption and implementation with the fidelity that we have all instilled into our educational workforce, the Louisiana Department of Education's Tier 1 curriculum in all content areas, as well as the department's scope and sequence provided for social studies. Our students are recipients of high-quality instruction, and our teachers have had the ability to be immersed in meaningful vendor-led professional development. We are working shoulder to shoulder with the department through our teachers who are receiving training through mentor as well as content leader training, and we work very closely with our network systems relations coach. Louisiana's premise is that all students can achieve high expectations and master rigorous academic standards. That is also our district's belief and mantra. Using all of our resources, we are actualizing higher academic achievement for our students. When one spends just a few minutes analyzing our district's data, it is evident that we are on the path to increasing students' mastery of academic standards. One such example is the district's progress towards achieving the Louisiana Department of Education's critical goal: all students achieving mastery on third grade LEAP 2025 assessment and entering fourth grade ready grade level content. Since the academic year of 2016-17, if you look closely at our data, and more importantly, at our students' academic achievement, you'll note that we have had increases in mastery in both English language arts as well as mathematics. Mastery in mathematics alone has increased almost 6%. And unfortunately, when we did not have an opportunity to be assessed our students in spring because of COVID-19, we are confident in our students' growth to mastery because that is an element that we have studied very carefully in the district, and know that we would have had a continued upward trajectory. Even more significant for the district is the growth to mastery that we are accomplishing for our students in mathematics at grade 8, where we have been able to actualize an increase of almost 8%, and that is mastery that we are aiming towards. These gains are translating into our success in graduating our students, but not just graduating students with high school diplomas. Our students are graduating with industry-based credentials and have steadily increased the number of students graduating with associate degrees. Over the last 3 years, we have increased our graduation rate by 12.7% from a 61.7 to this last class having a graduation rate of 74.4%. While our percent of students earning basic or advanced credentials has increased by 15.4% from 40.4 to 55.8%. All of these gains are representative of the forward thinking of our school system. Several years ago, when working on the district strategic plan and analyzing data for our schools, it was determined that by reconfiguring our Opelousas schools from pre-K to 6 to pre-K to 4, there would be an increased opportunity to build capacity in our educators while maximizing instructional connections for our students. We have successfully reconfigured the schools within the city of Opelousas to grades pre-K through 4 and look forward to analyzing student achievement data in the near future. Having acquired and become the grantee for Head Start, we have increased our capacity to prepare our students academically for kindergarten. Our early childhood centers are recognized across the state of Louisiana and have continued to earn excellent and highly proficient ratings. These are the students that are matriculating into our elementary schools in the city of Opelousas. With all this being said, at the heart of our quest for academic, social, and emotional growth are the children entrusted to us. As David Allen Coe writes, it is not the beauty of the building that you should look at, it's the construction of the foundation that will stand the test of time. The St. Landry Parish School System is continuing to build a framework that allows our students to reach their full potential. We are a very progressive-minded district. I'm so sorry. That has approved, just so that the board will be knowledgeable, we did approve a Type 1 charter, and we have been working very closely with AFS that will open their doors in our system on August 21st. So with all of that being said, in the partnership that we have with a charter already, we ask that we not have another charter that be allowed into St. Landry Parish School System. Thank you all, and I apologize for being lengthy.
All right. Ms. Casimir, just to be clear, you were speaking on behalf of the organization, so you got 5 minutes instead of 3. So Superintendent Jenkins, you only get 3 minutes.
Shorten it up a little bit. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Jenkins, Superintendent, St. Landry Parish Schools. Ernest Hemingway said, today is only one day in all the days that it ever will be. But what will happen in all the other days that ever come depends on what you do today. Good afternoon to the chair, board, President Holloway, and Superintendent Brownlee, and board members. St. Landry Parish is, its future progress depends on what you do today. I'm requesting that the board and this committee deny the charter application for St. Landry Charter. In making this request, I want the board to know that St. Landry Parish School District is not against charter schools. We have approved a charter school in St. Landry Parish, AFS, a French immersion charter, and we look forward to working with them. In fact, we believe that this particular charter will enhance the goals of St. Landry Parish School in becoming a AAA school district in academics, the arts, as well as athletics. We also continue to look at, as presented today, the application that went before you with St. Landry Charter. But however, they attempt to describe a school system that no longer exists. Who we were and who we are is not an indicator of who we will be. Angela described many of the great components of St. Landry Parish Schools, and we all continue to grow. St. Landry Charter has attempted to describe a district that is failing and a community that's dysfunctional. Neither is, both are farther from the truth. Can we improve? Absolutely. Have we improved? Absolutely. Will we continue to improve? Absolutely. Preparation does not guarantee results, it guarantees growth. And that's what we've done over the last 4 years since I've been superintendent. The growth that Angela talked about and the growth that I'll mention briefly is when we look at, for the last 4 years, we have grown. If we would have looked at the standard that was basic or above before, we had the highest growth in the state of Louisiana of 13.3 points. We would have been at 85 feet. However, master became the standard, and we had to adjust that. So we have grown. So as we come to a conclusion, I just want the department and each of you to consider this application and also to deny it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And if I don't get an opportunity, happy to help.
Thank you, Superintendent Jenkins. Dr. Brumley, I think you wanted to add some additional comments as well.
Yes, sir, Mr. Castile. The only comment I would add here is that the organization in which we partnered, which is SchoolWorks, did a thorough review of the application, recommended an approval of the application, and so the department in turn has done the same. When we looked at additional information, we found no information that would prompt us to not consider the recommendation for SchoolWorks. In fact, while I believe in what Mr. Jenkins is doing, I appreciate his partnership, and I do think that St. Landry will continue to improve. In Opelousas alone, if I'm a parent looking at an elementary or middle school, I don't think that there is an option for an A or B school outside of a magnet program. And that could be incorrect, but as I can tell, there are 6 elementary and middle schools there in Opelousas, which is the location of the school from my understanding. One of those schools is an F, 4 Ds, and 1 is a C. So if I'm a parent looking for a school with A and B status, elementary or middle school in Opelousas, I don't have that option as a parent.
Great. I don't see any other public comments. Questions, comments from the members of the board? President Holloway.
I do. I would like some clarification, and I'm not quite sure if it's Superintendent Jenkins, thanks for being here, or actually Dr. Toby Daspit. I have questions about the review. And it's good to see you, Toby. He's UL professor, so I appreciate you on this. But my question, I'm sorry, I'll wait until you, Superintendent. You good? Yeah. I have please help me understand the third-party review. Dr. Daspert, were you the only reviewer on this charter app?
On this one, yes.
The only one. So I'm asking that because with experience, being in the charter movement, choice, I am accustomed of teams being 2 or 3 people in the interview process. Mr. Henderson, Mr. Jenkins, I'm sorry. So the reason why I'm asking this is because I was looking for more than one reviewer on this and supporting school districts in the process of a third party, the importance of having a team effort. So the question here, Dr. Daspit, is what is your record on approving charters in Lafayette or St. Landry? Talk to me about that.
So I do want to point out that we did have a team in 2017. I worked with, you can hear me, Dr. Micah Bruce Davis, who worked for 2 years in the first 2 applications from St. Landry charter. And I believe in 2018, you all hired a financial, someone to come in and do the finances. The application has not changed since then. So I felt comfortable moving forward by myself for the last years. I've reviewed 12 charter applications since 2016 between Lafayette Parish and St. Landry Parish. The boards have voted 100% with my recommendations. I believe I voted twice for the approval of AFS. The first time they had conditions that they weren't willing to meet with the district, but the second time they did. There was an approval for Jefferson Charter and Lafayette Parish with conditions, but those conditions weren't met, so they came to you for a type 2, I believe, in 2017. That's the only ones that I voted to approve.
Okay. Any experience in the charter school area?
Beyond the review stream,
Correct.
I mean, I haven't worked for a charter or with them now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Through the years of experience and working with districts, with charter applications, and encouraging superintendents to look at the app and foster the thought of a type 1. Tell me about your thoughts on why not, that you didn't consider this charter as a type 1 under your authority. And you know that there's a 2%, I mean, you can make money off aside from the 2%, the transportation, maintenance, et cetera. And ultimately, you are their authorizer and the superintendent over that type 1, and you're familiar with because you already have one. So let's talk about this charter.
Yes, well, I believe that, as you mentioned, that the type 1 that we did approve, AFS, provided innovative, creative, and something different for St. Landry Parish and its students. Whereas in this particular case, we did not approve it because it lacked the innovation. It also did not provide anything that we weren't doing or attempting to do at this particular time. As noted by Mrs. Casimir, we have reconfigured our schools because we know that in St. Landry Parish, K-4 schools work best for us. Collectively, they are combined to be a B on the SPS, according to the department. And we also know that by reconfiguring our schools to K-4s, that it would increase our academic performance. And we were looking forward to the results for this past year, although because of COVID, we did not have those results. We also did not approve them because of governance in particular. Last year, with this particular application, it was not approved by the department and recommended by the department and John White because a critical component of governance in particular. If you look at the data that was provided within the application, it simply indicated that the trainings were done in the year of 2019. Their application was not approved by the department in December of 2019. There have been no subsequent trainings since that time frame as well for their governance. And in fact, many of the participants within their governance board have either had no training or at least one of 4 trainings. So that is a critical component. Leadership cannot be usurped. It's critically important that leaders of the organization is competent and be willing to do all those things that are needed. And then lastly, the financial aspect of it. When you look at the financial statements, the information that's provided for your consideration, it is a very, very tight budget. And in the times that we're serving now, within COVID, they won't have the luxury of having CARES Act money, E-rate money, and all these other federal dollars that are appropriated to the school districts to be able to survive in this particular climate. So this is not going anywhere, and so those are some of the components that we looked at with regards to denying this application.
Have y'all had dialogue and discussion and given the charter group the opportunity to come back and answer those questions and working with them as even a third-party reviewer? Have you given them the opportunity to answer your questions?
I mean, I conducted a thorough interview on May 11th, as I've said several times. Many of the responses I got were, they deferred to the review from Schoolworks and said, we only are going to reply to standards that were unmet. We don't have to provide you with new information. I mean, they did it. It's the same application around 1920. And
But
so-
did you give them the opportunity to go back to the drawing board, make the corrections, come back in writing? These are those things.
I think that's the reason we're sitting here today, to be honest. I think they responded to recommendations from 17 on, and so they have improved the application. The question is, can they prove that they weren't opening a school? I believe that's a huge step for anyone. And we're talking about data today. I don't know what data exists to show that this board, that's the basis for my recommendation. Beyond that, the district, at the school board level, provides an opportunity for them to, I can't remember what happened this year, to be honest, the Zoom meetings, I'm assuming now, but there was an opportunity for them to present at the board meeting.
I know we don't have a rebuttal from the other side, so I'm trusting, so.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure. Dr.
So,
Davis?
this
You're done,
is-
President Holloway?
Well,
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
I just
Dr.
didn't
Davis?
get a
so I
rebuttal.
just want a clarification. So how many times have they come to your school board and been rejected, and have they been rejected by BESE in the past?
They have come to St. Landry Parish School Board 4 times and
Okay.
and have been rejected. They have pulled their application from the department at least twice. They were denied last year, and this year they've been brought to the board again.
And in your opinion, there's nothing super different from the time we rejected it last year compared to this year? Okay.
I think we need a rebuttal, but I think we need a rebuttal from the other side. We're only
Ms.
here to
Fall, would you
decide.
please come to the microphone, please?
Thank you.
Sure.
This is our 4th application, and last year, we missed 3 board standards, 3 standards, and that had to do with governance. We've corrected the issues that they had last year. The members of the BESE board that were here last year and Superintendent White said we had a strong application, that we needed to correct those 3 unmet standards, and we did. And according to SchoolWorks, our board, governance board, is strong because we did receive a lot of training from Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools. Ms. Caroline Romar is here today. She can tell you. We've received extensive, our board and me, and Ms. Simeon, the principal, extensive training from Fourth Sector Solutions. Our finances from day one, the first application we ever had, we scored 100%. Our finances have always been strong, okay? Now, as for the relationship with the St. Landry Parish School Board, and I'm going to tell you about the 4 applications. Every time we go, Mr. Daspit says that it's the same old stuff, okay? Well, it's the same old stuff, but since our first application before BESE, our Type 2 application, our operations and finances have always scored 100%, okay? Well, second application. Second, third, and fourth applications, operations and finances have always scored 100% from your evaluators. Okay, these are your consultants. Last year, we applied with the district. Well, let me go back a couple of years. We met, Dr. Artigo and I met with Mr. Jenkins when he first got the job. We asked him to partner with us. Let us be a pilot program for them, for the schools in Opelousas. Because even though some schools in St. Landry Parish are good, the schools in Opelousas are in decline or failing. They have done nothing in 13 years. If you look at the data, they have done nothing for the schools in Opelousas. If you look at the money that's spent, equity in education, a lot more money is spent in the outlying areas instead of Opelousas. What we wanted to do was take the money that you provide, the MFP dollars, and make it equitable to the kids in Opelousas. What Mr. Jenkins told us, Dr. Artigo is here, told us we can't have their money. Basically, is what he said. Okay? So last year, for the fourth application, we didn't go because we knew what it would be. Mr. Daspit in front of the board at the last board meeting to authorize the type 1 charter school. Mr. Daspit just said it's the same old application. Well, what Mr. Daspit Dr. Daspit didn't understand is that we couldn't change this. We couldn't change the standards that were already met, because according to your application, we have to address the unmet standards, which is what we did. So when we filed the application with the school district, Dr. Daspit was the only evaluator, and he's been the only evaluator for the last 2 applications. And he sent back a 1.5-page response. It's in your folders that I gave you. He sent us a 1.5-page response telling us generally what we didn't do. Okay? I sent him another email, which is in your folders, asking him for the specific standards we did not meet so that we could address them. He told me, and it's in there, and I don't know exactly what he said, but he told me that they didn't have to follow the protocol. Let me back up a minute. I told him that the St. Landry Parish School District had adopted the application process of the state. So that entitled us to be able to respond, to follow your protocol. That was not done. As for the interviews, we have not had an interview with Dr. Daspit. That segment that says, give the scenarios and interview the board, that was not happened. That was not done. Okay? So our contention is the St. Landry Parish School Board did not follow their procedures. Okay? And we were stuck. There was nothing we could do but to come before you and ask you to approve. And we did. We did the things that we were supposed to do, and we got 100% approval. And I see you looking at that. I need you to look at the data, the snapshot of the data for the kids in Opelousas. It went back to 2014, and you'll see that the schools in Opelousas, they were steady in decline until they got an F. Now, the 2 schools that St. Landry Parish closed last year, the Opelousas schools, what they did, they closed Southwest Elementary and North Elementary F schools. And they took the same kids with the same curriculum, with the same problems, and they sent them to other schools. And then they opened a 5th and 6th grade school at Cresswell. Well, it ended up that the kids at Cresswell were so packed into the school, they realized they made a mistake. So what they did is, they opened South Street. They closed South Street, which was a D school. They closed South Street, and then they opened it. Now they have 2 middle schools. Okay? So their idea of addressing the needs in Opelousas is to just shift the kids around. Okay? So what we want to do, we want to grow a crop of kids, of students that have consistency, that are proud to attend the schools that they're going. When we did that survey, and I've done the survey many years, when I did the survey to see if parents would be interested in attending their school, parents who normally don't get out of bed until 10 o'clock were getting out of bed, go knock on the bedroom windows of their neighbors and say, we need this. Okay? So to say that, getting phone calls for not wanting this, trust me, there are 100 parents, families who want their kids here because they have no choice. Another thing you need to know, school choice. Oh, that's wonderful. Kids can go to Leonville or Lawtown, and you look at those schools, they're in decline. The one thing the school district doesn't do is provide transportation. They're supposed to. Because if you're in that school and you're supposed, as far as I know, unless you change the law, the rules, parents have to provide their own transportation if they want their children to go outside the city limits. Okay? They can't go. So they are stuck at these low-performing schools with no hope. We had parents who wanted to be here today and actually plead their case. But because of COVID, and we didn't know what to expect here with the people in the audience, we asked them not to. Okay? So, That's all I can say. We've tried.
Dr. Davis.
A quick question. How many members are on your board?
7. And then when we are, by January, if we're approved today,
You add
once
2.
we finish with enrollment, we're going to add 2 parents.
Okay, so you have 7 now, and all 7 of them have been through the Louisiana Charter School Association's training?
Yes.
All
Yes.
7 of them? And how
Yes.
many of them were on your board in 2018? Just with an eye toward continuity across time?
All but 1.
All of one. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we just changed 1. Okay, because, and they resigned from the board because of other commitments. Okay, what it is, she's a homeschool parent, and she wants her children at our charter school, but it was just too much for her.
Ms. Fall, Superintendent Jenkins said that you don't have a location yet. Do you have a location?
Yes, we do.
Where is it?
1802 Wilson Drive.
Okay.
In our packet, we have and I think in the packet that you have, we have the letter of commitment. We're in the midst of a negotiating a lease purchase agreement with the owner, and we are also I don't think I put it in your packet, but in the application, we have a lender Capital Investments, I think, who has a letter of commitment in our application stating that they would work with us in financing our school. And it's all within our budget.
Great, thank you. Dr. Peterson?
If I may, just to add a few things to the conversation for consideration for BESE. As I said before you, as an authorizer in this seat and having served as an authorizer in other places, 2 districts, but also as a charter school leader and charter school teacher and so on and so forth. I think what some of the things that I want you to consider and to think about as it relates to this charter application process. One of which is what is important when we have a submission of a charter application, that the feedback that they receive through the third-party evaluation or through the review process is how they inform their practices and their application moving forward. And so if it is a truly articulated evaluation that allows them that feedback, you will see those changes to the application. However, what is a red flag to an authorizer would be if they came back with a different application each time, because that would mean that they had no mission or no vision or no true commitment to an educational model. And so what they will do is to make tweaks to an application because they are intentional about what they would like to offer those students. Additionally, it is also not uncommon to see changes in the board membership. As they go through this process, and as we have to understand, chartering is very different than our traditional public school in terms of understanding who needs to serve on a governance board. A governance board memberships constitute people with financial, organizational backgrounds, as well as instructional. And when a charter applicant is going through that process, they define that and understand who should be on that board, because at the end of the day, it is a contract between the authorizer and that board. And so before approval, they have to get that composition correct. And so I think it's just very important to understand the changes in applications you will see based on the feedback that they receive throughout that process, as that is what it's for. But also we may see membership change in order to make sure and to ensure that they have the right composition on that board to provide oversight and accountability for that entity.
Right, questions? Mr. Morris?
Yeah, I'm just curious, for the type 1 application and the type 2 application, is the same rubric used?
So BESE in 126, we have specifically outlined BESE authorization responsibilities and the local district. Each local district must use the state charter application. However, they can add supplemental questions to that, and they do not have to necessarily use those standards or evaluation rubric. They may utilize something else.
Thank you.
Ms. Fauché?
I don't know, whenever these applications come up, I always sit here and wish that there was greater communication with local communities and the charter school applications, because I think the best case scenario everywhere is that if the community is, wants a type 1 charter, that it's done at the local level. And I hate to ever see things get up here wishing that they could be settled there. I know that one of the commenters had said before, we need to make decisions based on data. And I'm looking at some of this, and I'm wondering, at first I was wondering, why do we have such conflicting data? You know, I'm looking at one application says at the high school's a D, and then, of course, the other group comes back, says it's a C, and we've got a 20-point increase in cohort graduation rates over the 4 years. The school district is in sound financial status, whereas the application says it's not. And you see some of all these conflicting things back and forth. And maybe it's because of the length of the application. And I'm talking about length in time over a 4-year period. I'm just very, very concerned, I guess, with the conflicting information in terms of data. When we sit up here to make decisions, we're not privy. We don't sit here and evaluate the proposals. And we've got district authorizers or district evaluators telling us one thing. We've got school works telling us something else. And it's very, very difficult to make determinations as to where to put our faith. I guess the most concern I have is the conflicting data in the application based on what the St. Landry school system is telling us with their financial condition, with their cohort grad rates, with their high school letter grade, those types of things. So I don't know. I'm just in, I guess, a little bit state of confusion with the different applications.
I think,
Dr. Peterson, can you
Yes.
respond to that, please?
yes. When we look at the evaluation standards, they're evaluated on their application, not the performance of that district or necessarily justifying that data. So in the event that and thinking about that this applicant group has gone through multiple cycles of this application, however, there are no standards that are specifically around them providing that data about the district.
And I understand that and what it's based on, but I don't like the concept of having information in one that's conflicting with maybe what reality is or the information in another. That raises concern for me. I also know that, or at least thought, that we're looking for what innovative practices that are being put forth, and I'd like maybe some clarification on that. What is the innovation that this particular charter is offering to the students in the Opelousas area that the school district is not offering? So what is the innovative piece to this?
Yep, I will answer part of that and then defer to Ms. Fall. I think one thing I think that is important is that we need to make sure that when we think about innovation is not just synonymous with educational programming. Innovation in a charter school can be based because they have autonomies in their financials, their curriculum choices, as well as their organizational, operational, as it relates to configurations of classrooms. Those are all also innovation, and it's not just specifically around educational program. And so I will ask Ms. Fall to explain some of the pieces that are different than the offerings in that district.
Okay. St. Landry Charter School, the philosophy is that of Robert Marzano, a guaranteed and viable curriculum. What the philosophy is behind there is that teachers need time to teach and children need time to learn. And that's, generally speaking, in most schools, you're rushing the kids and they don't have the time to develop the skills. Pretty much what the other lady said in the other meeting, they don't have the time to skills to learn, to master the skills before they go on. So what Robert Marzano, guaranteed and viable curriculum, understanding by design, is that we take the kids where they are, we assess them, and then we go back and do the prerequisite skills. Core knowledge sequence is what we're going to use, is CKLA with Amplify. Core knowledge sequence maps out from the time the child enters kindergarten until 5th grade right now. It maps out what skill that child needs to go from here to there. One of the problems that the teachers are having in the school system, and this is how we're innovating, we're going to be doing looping, okay? Looping is the kids are going to stay with the teacher from kindergarten through second grade. Okay? At kindergarten, when they come in August 9th of 2021, our kids are going to be assessed. Okay? And they're assessed throughout. In the Amplified Curriculum, Eureka Math, we have Social Studies Weekly. A lot of the things that you were talking about earlier that you wanted to do in social studies and putting it in the curriculum, in literature, all of that's in Core Knowledge Amplified. So what we're doing is, throughout the day, the teachers are going to be teaching a unit. Let's just say in fourth grade, they're teaching civics, they're teaching elections, okay? That whole unit, that whole day is going to be based on that particular, the literature, the science, whatever it is, the social studies. I mean, you can teach statistics when you're talking about elections. That's going to all be done. But in kindergarten through second grade, the kids are going to stay with the same teacher. So that way, number one, kids don't have to adjust to all these personalities. Okay? As a classroom teacher, a fourth grade classroom teacher, I was self-contained because when I needed to steal from Peter to give to Paul, you know, child was weak in math, I could take some, and he was strong in reading, I could take some of that time during the day and work with him. Okay? So, they're going to stay with the teacher the same K to 2, and it may be longer. It's going to depend on what the parents and the staff wants. But when that child leaves in May, that teacher does not have to spend 2 weeks assessing that child to find out where she is and the personality. So you're saving time right there because the teachers know the child. Now, once at the end of the day, because you're doing this curriculum all together, you're consolidating the literature, the social studies, the science, and including the math, then we have, if you look in our application, there is 90 minutes left during the day. The 90 minutes that are left during the day, children will be grouped, okay? We're going to have our low achievers that need help, okay? They're going to be grouped. The ones that are on task, on grade level, then what's going to happen is they're going to be given a little push, okay? The ones that are ahead, our high achievers, they're going to be challenged, okay? How are we going to do that? It's in the system of core knowledge. It's in the system of Amplify. It's in the system of all the curricula that we adopt. That's written in the curriculum. Now, as for the other ones, Madeline Hunter, direct instruction, all these things, I'm an old teacher, and I can tell you, I did all those things in the classroom. But what happened is, you don't put it all together. You don't focus on Madeline Hunter, setting the purpose, doing all these things. You don't focus on direct instruction. Our teachers, 2 weeks before school starts, are going to be trained to do this. It's not going to be hard to train them because they're classroom teachers. They know what to do. The focus has to be in our philosophy and how we want, what we want for them to do. They're doing it already. Okay? So, okay.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Fall.
And I'm sorry I'm loud.
No, that's quite all right.
No, that's
I think we've had healthy debate and discussion at this point. Is there an objection to the motion?
Well, what motion do we
There's a
have?
motion to approve the application.
I think we just had a motion to receive the report.
Is that right?
We don't have a motion to.
Motion to
This
approve?
is, receive was the first, then we had the deny, delete, this one is approved.
Right. So my understanding is that there was a motion to approve. Is there an objection to the motion to approve the application?
I do.
There is an objection. Roll call vote, please. There are several objections.
Dr. Bofi is not in attendance. Dr. Davis.
No.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Miss Ellis.
Yes.
Mr. Garvey.
Yes.
Miss Holloway.
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Miss Orange Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Rock.
No.
Miss Fauché.
No.
There are 3 nays. 6. Yep, the motion to approve passes.
All right, the motion passes. Next item, please.
The next recommendation is to approve the Type 2 charter application submitted for Williams Scholar Academy, operated by Williams nonprofit, to commence operation of one Type 2 charter school in Vermilion Parish, beginning with the 2021-2022 school year with contingencies.
All right, Dr. Peterson, I'm sorry, motion, please. It's a motion by Mr. Garvey, seconded by Mr. Davis. All right, we have a motion and a second. Dr. Peterson?
Williams nonprofit submitted an application to operate Williams Scholar Academy. The location is Vermilion Parish. The grade configuration at start is 612, beginning with 280 students with a capacity of 480. The mission of Williams Scholar Academy is to foster college-ready graduates, especially minorities and low SES students, by providing a learning community where all scholars, regardless of learning style, limits, or abilities, are empowered to become innovative thinkers through their learning experiences, which engages them in the interconnectedness of the academic disciplines with cultural, character, and social responsibility. Their motto states, challenge the mind, develop the character, and change the world. Their vision is founded upon achieving post-secondary success for their students to matriculate into college and universities of their choice and being empowered by education. Key aspects of the proposed model provided by SchoolWorks is that the applicant group proposes a 612 school that will serve students who are economically disadvantaged as students of color. The applicant group provides a clear description of the academic plan as well as at-risk students. Additionally, the applicant group states that it intends to follow the special education guidebook provided by the department and utilize the RTI process to identify struggling and at-risk students early and accurately. Finally, the applicant group states that the school will form a school-level building committee to monitor the implementation of students' individual education plans as well as Tier 1, 2, and 3 interventions administered as part of the ITR process. There were a total of 118 standards within the new operator application. There were 36 not applicable. Williams nonprofit met 100% of the standards. Therefore, SchoolWorks recommends the approval of the charter application, and the department recommendation is to approve the Type 2 charter school.
All right, great. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. I have several cards here in support of the recommendation. Dr. George Williams supports the recommendation but does not wish to speak. I have Mr. Jason Jones, Ms. Tiffany Spraggins, and Mr. Dedrick Sims. They all support the recommendation and wish to speak. I suspect they wish to speak if there's any objection to the motion. Is there any objection to the motion?
Well, I have questions.
Okay.
Can I ask
all right.
questions?
Discussion?
So in the final recommendation, one of the things that the claims that's made for vision and mission is that the school seeks to serve a demographic that is not being served, thereby deliberately addressing the underserved population. So they have a mission for reaching out to children of color and economically disadvantaged kids. But 7 out of the 9 middle school and high schools in Vermilion Parish outscore the state. Like, they outscore 85% of the schools in the state when it comes to closing the gap between economically disadvantaged, and the same for students of color. And so I guess I'm just curious as to how this is a demographic that's not being served currently in Vermilion Parish.
So I think that one of the things that we've looked at specifically is while we look at the district, the overall district performance, is really being able to look at, one, where the students are currently enrolled, which the majority of the students are currently enrolled in one high school. When we look at the students of color as well as economically disadvantaged students. Furthermore, when you look at that, and specifically looking at that school, looking at the end of course assessments for those high school students, it tells a different story. And specifically, the economically disadvantaged student population at the high school in which most of these students are enrolled, only 35% of them are scoring mastery or above on their end of course assessments, being English 1, 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, Biology, and U.S. History. And specifically, their Black student population, only 27.5 of those students are scoring percentage mastery or above.
Okay, so you're talking about Abbeville High, that's the A-rated high school that, I mean, it's earning college credentials, 54% of Abbeville High School students are earning college credentials compared to the state average of 41%. That's not broken down on the school report card by race or ethnicity or free and reduced lunch status. I guess I have a big problem we are saying that they're not serving these students, but we just talked about in glowing terms the year-round school in Shreve Island, I believe, where the lowest performing schools in Vermilion Parish, so there are 3 C-rated schools or 2 C-rated schools, are on par with or outperforming the school we just lauded as the reason that we ought to be moving to a year-round school. And those schools that school has a 50% free and reduced lunch status population compared to some of the high schools. The high school that you're talking about is substantially higher. And so I guess I don't understand how one is a stellar opportunity for what we ought to be emulating, but yet at another school that is scoring just as well or better is a reason for concern. Can somebody explain that rationale to me?
Well, I think that when we look at, if you go back to BESE 126, as it outlines some of the purposes for charter schools, in addition, it's also about providing educational opportunities for parents' choice. Right. And so in this position, we have an applicant that has come to us specifically to operate a school to serve an intended population, to provide those parents with an additional choice.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. We have Jason Jones, Tiffany Spraggins, and Dedrick Sims. Would you come up, please? I understand that all 3 of you wish to speak, and you may do so in the order that you deem appropriate, and please state your name for the record when you come to the podium.
It just makes no sense.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am Tiffany Spraggins, and I'm the proposed school principal for Williams Scholar Academy in Vermilion Parish. I am a proud resident of Vermilion Parish and a product of public school there. And I do boast of some of the accomplishments in our parish. We know that there were 10 schools in Louisiana to get blue ribbon distinction, and 3 of those actually were in our parish. ERAP High School, Forkett Island, E. Broussard, and Indian Bayou. But to give an idea of why still a need, those 3 schools serve over 1,000 students. And of those 1,000 students, only about 35 of those are students who are of African American descent. So while we do have blue ribbon distinction that we certainly need to be proud of and we are proud of, there are certain subgroups that are still not seeing those gains. The majority of minority students in Vermilion Parish go through one pipeline of K-12 school. From K-2, that's Eden Park Elementary. 3rd to 5th grade, that would be Harrod Elementary. The 6th to 8th grade, J.H. Williams Middle School, and then, of course, to Abbeville High School. So that pipeline houses the majority of the African American students. I'm giving that as an example. One of the problems with that is if we look at, for instance, J.H. Williams, that houses 70% of students of color, the African American, 70% of the African American population goes to Harrod. That's the one school in Vermilion Parish that has been identified as in need of urgent intervention for African American students. That same picture is for Eden Park Elementary. And so what we have is, Harrod Elementary. But what we have is that population, or where those students are concentrated, are at the very schools that are identified as in need of urgent intervention for their particular subgroup. And so for those parents, we'd say, well, there are other great schools, and there are. There are great schools in Vermilion Parish. And in fact, I'm not disparaging any of those that I just mentioned. When you have a concentrated, population of at risk, you're doing the hard work every day you're not always seeing the gains that are as easy as it is in some other places. So there are hardworking educators everywhere. However, some of the pressure needs to be relieved from that pipeline. And so, you know, we have these concentrations of the students there.
Dr. Spraggins, are you speaking on behalf of the organization with 5 minutes or?
Yes.
Okay. Full 5 minutes for you, the other two get 3 minutes only.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. And so when we have the populations of students concentrated going through that particular pipeline, we would suggest that, well, perhaps they can attend another one of our greatly rated schools in the parish. However, we know because of zoning laws, they can't do that. So not only are they attending the schools that are identified as in urgent need of intervention for them, but they also don't have a choice unless they change zip codes, unless they change their address. And so a school option is the choice for some of the parents to be able to say, if I want something different for my child, I actually have an option to go to another public school choice. That's what we are offering. We're trying to look at what some of the systemic issues are for children of color, academic, disciplinary, various things that we've instituted programs to try to address those particular issues within the school day. They often need academic supports, but don't have transportation. So we have X blocks and other places within the school day where those things can be addressed. With discipline, it's more reflective and restorative to try to help build, reflect on behavior, build that character, and then move forward with greater opportunities for access to education. So we are hoping that you understand we are not trying to solve all of the problems that exist for education, and we certainly do not disparage our own community. However, we believe that we are a tool in the toolbox to be able to build for all of the kids of Vermilion Parish and be equitable in that blue ribbon status, or at least aspiring to that. And that is why we come before you today and we ask for your support.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Spraggins. Next. Please introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, Jason Jones, member of the board. Mr. Superintendent, board members, thank you so much for having us. And again, we appreciate the recommendation that we have received from SchoolWorks and also the Department of Education.
Can you pull the mic a little bit closer to you? Thank you.
No problem. And also the Department of Education to be able to present to you all today. And as I'm reviewing our charter application, I know you also saw that we have worked hard to work with the community members and also the board, a local board, in order to ensure that all students in that area do receive a great and positive education. We're just looking, like Tiffany said, to be a tool in the toolbox of education for all the students. The options that they have now need to be improved upon, and we look to do that. We're not looking to take anything from anyone else, but we're looking to ensure that the students are ready for the next step in life. Our board has worked hard also in order to ensure that we're ready to be able to take on this undertaking. Through our training, we've worked hard with the school leaders to ensure that they're ready with this application. This isn't our first bite at the apple with the application process, but we're really happy with the product that we've put out currently. So thank you so much for the opportunity to meet before you, and we look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. Next. We'll start over.
Thank you. My name is Dedrick Sims, and I serve as the board president for Williams Scholar Academy. Chairman, president, rest of the board, Dr. Bromley. I first want to thank SchoolWorks and thank the state for the recommendation. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to advocate on behalf of the Williams Scholar Academy for our community. And like my colleague said, that I am also excited that we get the opportunity to become another option that is so desperately needed in Vermilion Parish and in Abbeville. I'm also excited about the families, for the families, that they will get an opportunity to have an additional option, an additional model, a model like ours. a solution like ours. Our solution is grounded in quality, grade level instruction, but also an instructional framework, as Tiffany said, that includes real-time, daytime supports for students who need those supports. We're being proactive and understanding some of the social issues the socio-political issues that impact communities of color more so than they do other communities, that prevent them from having things like transportation, extra time, sometimes money, school clothes, and those things. So we are in our school design, we are considering those things as well. I'd also like to add that in this critical time in our countries regarding identifying and addressing systemic barriers and inequalities, that our model is uniquely poised to be a practical strategy in this process for all community types, but particularly communities of color. So we look forward to working with others to create this ecosystem of support and success for the students and families that we have the opportunity to serve. And we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other questions or comments from the members of the board? Dr. Davis.
I'd like to say that, and maybe this is a function of what Doris was mentioning earlier about statistics drawn from different places, but I actually went and I looked at the elementary schools that feed into J.H. Williams and then also feed into Abbeville High, which are the schools that are under consideration. And so the two elementary schools are majority minority schools, and they are C's with their letter grades, but their progress points, right, are A's and B's respectively. By the time they get to J.H. Williams is 71% students of color, and 85% of their ninth graders are on track by the time they finish ninth grade. And so I would just like to say that this is a case of our schools doing what they need to be doing, which is starting out kids that are behind, and by the time they're getting to ninth grade, they are on track for graduating from high school. And so I guess for me, I am failing, because this is something I care deeply about, which is the equity gap when it comes to students of color and our economically disadvantaged ones. I feel like that the goal of this charter school, the students that are so far are being neglected according to this application by the Vermilion Parish school system are actually not. That they are growing at a rate that puts them on track by the time they're in the ninth grade and headed towards Abbeville High, which is an A-rated high school. So that's it.
Any other questions or comments? President Holloway.
I do, but I'd like to know if there's anyone from Vermilion Parish School District. I have a question for them, but I'm not quite sure if anybody is here that can answer it from the superintendent or the board. I'm going to ask this question, and I'm assuming that Williams Scholar Academy may be able to answer this question. And we spoke about third-party reviewers earlier, the experience and what takes place in an application. And from what I understand, that Williams has been before the Vermilion Parish School Board, had a third-party reviewer, and they were approved by that third-party reviewer. Can somebody talk to us about that? And I also understand that, and I'm not quite sure when this happened, that the board denied that approval. Can you speak to us about that?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. That is correct. We've actually been before Vermilion Parish School Board twice. In the first year that we applied, at the local level, we were short a few standards, but got to the school board meeting, at which time we were able to explain those standards. And we actually received a split 4-4 vote. So it was voted down by a split vote. We came here last year to the state. We had 3 unmet standards, and we didn't choose to come before the state board because we wanted to attempt again to work with our district. And so we went back to the district with a better application, because the state application always pulls you to a higher level, I would assume, based on our experience. So it was a much better product from us. It honed our skills and just made it better. So we went back to the district level. At that level, we got a recommendation for approval this year at the district level. There was only one vote to support us. Everybody else did not. And so we come back before the state. But we had a recommendation for approval at the district level this year.
Oh, okay, it's not twice. The third party, was it twice
The
you were?
third party evaluate, this year, it
This
was
year.
a recommendation for approval this year at the district.
So just to be clear, the last application that we had, the third-party evaluator didn't recommend approval, but you're saying, unlike that one that was just approved, your application was recommended for approval by the third-party evaluator of the local district. All right, great. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
We have a copy of that approval recommendation by the third party, and just to highlight some of the things, the reasons for their recommendation for approval for this applicant. It says the applicant remains committed to the students of Vermilion Parish. The school's vision is not about the availability, but about the ability to access to the program. The school seeks to serve a demographic that is not being served, thereby deliberately addressing the underserved population. Additionally, it states that the overall program seems well prepared to address the needs of the intended population. And again, that is the final recommendation, the approval recommendation from their third party. And that vote that the board took, that was on July 16, 2020, which is when the board voted to deny that application.
All right. Great, thank you. And I understand that we've been handed that third-party evaluation that recommended the approval at the district level. Any other questions, comments from the members of the board? All right, we have a motion to approve. Any objection to the motion? Seeing no objection, the motion passes. Thank you. Any other items, madam?
No, sir, that concludes the agenda. The next meeting will start in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Castillo, if I may just acknowledge Dr. Peterson for a moment. Dr. Peterson has been nominated and has been appointed as a board member for the National Association of Charter School Authorizers. We certainly understand and appreciate the importance of the authorization process, but also as we turn the year, understanding the process around supporting our schools, including our Type 2 charter schools. So having Dr. Peterson as a presence on this national board speaks well to the influence that we have in Louisiana to be a part of national policy decisions, but also we will benefit from her coming back with some of the best practices from across America. So I just wanted to congratulate Dr. Peterson on her appointment.
Thank you. Congratulations.